There is a jar sitting in your kitchen right now that could either be one of the smartest things a diabetic can eat every morning, or one of the quietest mistakes they make daily without ever knowing it. Same aisle, same shelf, sometimes the exact same price. Two jars that look almost identical on the outside, but inside, they are doing completely opposite things to your blood sugar. And the difference is not hidden. It is written right there on the label, in plain sight, every single morning when you reach for that jar. Today, I am going to walk you through exactly what the research says about peanut butter and type 2 diabetes. We are going to talk about why the right kind can work in ways most people would never expect, and why the wrong kind is quietly working against you every single day. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will know precisely which jar to pick up and which one to put back down. And I think a few of you are going to be genuinely surprised by what you find in your own pantry. Welcome back, everyone. I am Dr. David Aid, and if you are new here, this channel is dedicated to giving you clear, honest, evidence-based health information, the kind that actually makes a difference in your daily life, not just theory. Today, we are talking about peanut butter, and I know what some of you are thinking. Peanut butter. For diabetes? That seems like the last thing a doctor should be recommending. It is high in fat, it is calorie dense, it feels indulgent. But I want you to hold that assumption loosely for the next 30 minutes, because the clinical research tells a very different story. What most people with type 2 diabetes are getting wrong about peanut butter is not that they are eating it. It is that they are eating the wrong version of it. And that distinction, that one detail on a label that takes 10 seconds to check, is the difference between a food that actively supports your blood sugar control and one that undermines it a little more each morning. We are going to cover everything today. Why natural peanut butter has one of the lowest glycemic indexes of any food you can eat, the specific hormonal mechanisms it triggers inside your body, the timing that makes it most effective, the portion that matches the research, how to use it as a glycemic buffer alongside other foods, and the alternatives for those of you who cannot eat peanuts at all. This is going to be thorough, and I want you to stick around for all of it. Let us start at the beginning. Let us start with a number that might genuinely surprise you. The glycemic index of natural peanut butter is 14. To put that in context, pure glucose, the sugar your body uses as its direct fuel source, scores 100 on the glycemic index scale. White bread scores around 75. Cooked white rice sits at about 72. Even foods many people consider healthy breakfast choices, like cornflakes or instant oatmeal, can score between 70 and 80. Natural peanut butter? 14. That means when you eat natural peanut butter, your blood sugar barely moves in response. It is one of the lowest glycemic foods that exists, lower than most vegetables, lower than almost every common breakfast food, and dramatically lower than anything most people reach for in the morning when they think they are being careful. But here is what makes peanut butter genuinely interesting from a clinical standpoint, and this is what separates it from other low glycemic foods. It does not just sit quietly with a low number. It actively helps bring other foods down with it. A 2018 pilot study looked at what happened when researchers took two of the worst foods a diabetic can eat at breakfast, white bread and apple juice, and simply added 2 tablespoons of natural peanut butter alongside them. No other changes. Same bread, same juice, same amount. Just 2 tablespoons of peanut butter added to the meal. The glucose spike that followed dropped significantly. Not marginally, not slightly. Significantly. Think about that for a moment. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, paired with foods that typically send blood sugar climbing fast, blunted that spike in a measurable, documented way. Now think about how many people with type 2 diabetes eat toast and juice every morning, genuinely believing they are making a reasonable choice. They are not getting the protection they could be getting, and the thing that could provide it is probably sitting in their pantry already. Understanding why peanut butter does this is important, because when you understand the mechanism, you can use it more intentionally. So let me walk you through exactly what is happening inside your body when you eat it. The first mechanism is protein. 2 tablespoons of natural peanut butter contain approximately 7 grams of protein. That protein triggers the release of a hormone in your gut called GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1. If you have been following diabetes news at all over the past few years, you have probably heard that name. GLP-1 is the exact hormone that medications like semaglutide are designed to mimic. It is the mechanism behind some of the most talked about diabetes and weight management drugs on the market right now. What GLP-1 does, in simple terms, is slow down the rate at which your stomach empties its contents into your small intestine. And when your stomach empties more slowly, the carbohydrates from your meal enter your bloodstream more gradually. When carbohydrates absorb more slowly, your blood sugar rises steadily instead of spiking sharply. Natural peanut butter triggers that response every morning for about $4 a week. The second mechanism is monounsaturated fat. Most of the fat in peanut butter is monounsaturated, the same type found in olive oil, which has decades of research behind it in the context of heart health and metabolic function. This fat works in 2 ways simultaneously. First, it also contributes to slowing gastric emptying, reinforcing the same effect the protein creates. Second, and this is important for diabetics specifically, it improves how responsive your insulin receptors are. Better insulin receptor sensitivity means your body handles the sugar circulating in your bloodstream more efficiently. Your cells are more willing to accept the glucose that insulin is trying to deliver. Both benefits come from the same 2 tablespoons, working alongside each other. The third mechanism is magnesium. 1 serving of natural peanut butter provides approximately 12% of your daily recommended magnesium intake. That might not sound like much, but consider this. A large meta-analysis published in the journal Diabetes Care found that adequate magnesium intake is directly linked to reduced risk of developing type 2 diabetes, and in people who already have it, improved blood sugar regulation. Magnesium plays a role in how your body processes glucose and how well insulin functions at the cellular level, and it is a mineral that a significant proportion of diabetics are quietly deficient in, often without knowing it. Peanut butter is one of the most accessible, consistent, and inexpensive ways to add meaningful magnesium to your daily intake. So when you eat 2 tablespoons of natural peanut butter in the morning, you are activating 3 separate mechanisms at once. GLP-1 stimulation from the protein, gastric slowing, and improved insulin sensitivity from the fat, and blood sugar regulation support from the magnesium. That is not a coincidence. That is why the clinical research keeps returning to this specific food. There is also a 4th dimension to this, one documented in a clinical trial published in the British Journal of Nutrition. Researchers gave peanut butter at breakfast to women at high risk for type 2 diabetes. They measured 3 gut hormones, GLP-1, PYY, and CCK. All 3 were triggered simultaneously. These are hormones that control hunger, regulate digestion, and govern how glucose enters your bloodstream. All 3 activated together by one food. And here is the result that the researchers paid particular attention to. The women who had peanut butter at breakfast ate significantly less at lunch without being given any dietary instructions. No calorie restriction, no guidance on portions. They simply felt less hungry hours later. Their blood sugar response to lunch was also lower. Researchers call this the second meal effect. What you eat at breakfast directly shapes what happens to your blood sugar at noon. That is documented, reproducible, and clinically meaningful. We will come back to this in a moment. Now, we get to the part that changes everything, because the peanut butter that produces all of those benefits and the peanut butter that most people are buying are not the same thing. Turn your jar around. Look at the ingredient list. Count the ingredients. If there are more than 2, you have the wrong product, and it is costing your blood sugar every single morning. This is the mistake that most people with diabetes make without ever realizing it. They hear that peanut butter is good for blood sugar. They go to the store and they buy peanut butter. They feel good about that choice, but the jar they bring home is quietly working against everything the research actually promises. Not because peanut butter is the problem, because of what was added to it. Let me be specific. 3 of the most purchased peanut butter brands available today contain both added sugar and hydrogenated vegetable oil. These additions are not there for your health. They exist for commercial reasons, to keep the product smooth on the shelf, prevent oil separation, and extend shelf life. That is it. From a blood sugar standpoint, those 2 ingredients create real problems. Added sugar directly increases the glycemic impact of each serving. You are taking a food with a glycemic index of 14 and raising it with every gram of sugar that was stirred in. Hydrogenated oils introduce trans fat into the product, and trans fat has well-documented pro-inflammatory effects that worsen insulin resistance over time. You are not just missing the benefit, you are adding something that actively pushes your blood sugar response in the wrong direction. And this is happening at breakfast, the meal that sets the metabolic tone for your entire morning. The peanut butter that was studied in every trial we have discussed today has exactly 2 ingredients: peanuts and salt. That is it. Nothing beyond those 2 words on the label means you are not holding the product that produces those documented benefits. Now, I want to address something that puts a lot of people off natural peanut butter, and it is the oil separation at the top of the jar. When you open a jar of natural peanut butter and see oil floating at the surface, that is not a sign that the product has gone bad. It is not a quality issue. It is actually confirmation of the opposite. It is proof that no hydrogenated oil was used to keep it artificially stable. Real peanut butter, just ground peanuts, naturally separates. You stir it back in, and you have the real product. A lot of people reach past that jar and choose the smooth, perfectly uniform commercial brand instead, without realizing that the separation they were avoiding was actually the sign of quality. And in doing that, they trade a glycemic index of 14 for a product with added sugar and hydrogenated oil every morning. Here's the good news, and this part is worth emphasizing. The right peanut butter is not expensive. It is not exclusive to health food stores. It does not require a specialty grocery trip. At Costco, you will find their organic creamy peanut butter, 2 ingredients. At Trader Joe's, their creamy salted peanut butter, 2 ingredients. At Walmart, great value natural peanut butter, 2 ingredients. And at most mainstream grocery stores, Smucker's natural peanut butter, 2 ingredients. These are not premium products. They are mainstream, widely available, and typically priced comparably to the brands most people are already buying. The barrier to switching is not cost. It is not convenience. It is simply knowing which label to read. After this section, I would encourage you to go check your pantry right now. What brand are you currently using? Does it have more than 2 ingredients? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely read them, and your answer tells me a great deal about whether what you have at home is helping or quietly working against you. Now let us talk about timing, because this is where a lot of people lose the benefit even when they have the right jar. The majority of people who eat peanut butter regularly eat it as an afternoon snack, a spoonful from the jar around 3 in the afternoon, spread on crackers before dinner, blended into something sweet after lunch. And while those habits are still better than reaching for chips or processed snacks, they miss the window where peanut butter does something that almost no other food can do. When you eat peanut butter at breakfast, specifically at breakfast, it does not only protect your blood sugar from that meal, it protects your blood sugar from your next meal too. That is the second meal effect I mentioned earlier, and it is one of the most underappreciated findings in the nutrition research on type 2 diabetes. Here is the mechanism. When peanut butter is consumed in the morning, it triggers a sustained release of GLP-1, PYY, and CCK, those 3 gut hormones we discussed. They do not peak and then quickly disappear. They remain elevated through the hours following breakfast, well into midday. The clinical trial published in the British Journal of Nutrition confirmed this directly. When participants sat down for lunch hours after their peanut butter breakfast, their blood sugar response to that lunch meal was measurably lower. They also consumed fewer calories at that meal without being instructed to. The hormonal pattern set at breakfast was still actively shaping their physiology hours later. When you eat peanut butter as an afternoon snack, you still receive the protein, the fat, the magnesium. Those are always present, but you lose the second meal protection entirely. That window only opens at breakfast. Once the morning passes, it is closed until tomorrow. So the question becomes, what does the right peanut butter breakfast actually look like in practice? The research is fairly specific here. Natural peanut butter, eaten as one of the first foods in your morning, before or alongside the carbohydrates in that meal, not after. The reason comes back to gastric emptying. You want the fat and protein from the peanut butter already working in your stomach before or as carbohydrates arrive. That is when it functions as a buffer. That is when it flattens the curve. A practical example, one that covers everything the research supports. 2 tablespoons of natural peanut butter spread on a slice of whole grain rye bread, eaten alongside 2 eggs before your first cup of coffee. That combination gives you protein from both the eggs and the peanut butter. Double the GLP-1 stimulus at the same time. Monounsaturated fat from the peanut butter slowing gastric emptying. Magnesium from the peanut butter supporting insulin sensitivity. Fiber from the rye bread, further slowing carbohydrate absorption. And the second meal protection that will still be influencing your blood sugar response when you sit down for lunch. You can build that entire breakfast from any mainstream grocery store for well under $10 a week. No specialty ingredients, no complex preparation. Stir the peanut butter, spread it, eat it. That is the process. What does your current breakfast look like? What are you eating in the first hour of your morning right now? Leave it in the comments below. The most common pattern I see in questions I receive is someone making one genuinely good choice, surrounded by 2 or 3 choices that undo it, and then wondering why their morning numbers are not where they want them to be. Share your morning routine and let me know. Let us talk about portion, because this one is quieter than the label issue and the timing issue, but it adds up just as consistently. 2 tablespoons of natural peanut butter is about 190 calories. It is also the exact portion used in every study that produced the benefits we have been discussing. The GLP-1 response, the second meal effect, the glycemic buffer, all of it was documented at 2 tablespoons. That is the evidence-based dose. Here is the honest reality. Most people eating peanut butter directly from a jar are not eating 2 tablespoons. They are eating 3, 4, sometimes 5, without measuring or even noticing, because peanut butter is dense and a jar feels like it invites a generous scoop. At 5 tablespoons, you are looking at over 450 calories and more than 35 grams of fat from a single addition to your breakfast, before anything else on your plate is counted. The blood sugar benefit does not scale upward with larger portions. The caloric load does. And for someone managing type 2 diabetes, who is also watching their weight, which is most people in that situation, that excess caloric pressure creates its own metabolic challenge. 2 tablespoons, measured. Use an actual measuring spoon, not a visual estimate from the jar. The difference between a measured 2 tablespoons and a generous spoonful from memory is often twice the amount, and that difference multiplies across every day of every week. One simple habit that makes this easier: measure your 2 tablespoons the night before and store them in a small container in the refrigerator. In the morning, the portion decision is already made. You open the container, you use it. There is no moment where you reach into the jar for just a little more without thinking. Small structural choices like that, decisions made ahead of time outside the moment, are what separate consistent results from good intentions that vary day to day. There is one more layer to this that I want you to understand, because once you grasp it, you will start seeing practical opportunities throughout your daily eating that you probably never considered before. Peanut butter works as a glycemic buffer. That means when you pair it with a higher glycemic food, it meaningfully reduces that food's blood sugar impact, not eliminates it, reduces it. And the research has shown this works even with foods at the more challenging end of the glycemic spectrum. The 2018 pilot study we discussed earlier did not test A question I encounter frequently is about powdered peanut butter, products often sold under names like PB2. Many people are switching to these under the assumption that fewer calories makes them the smarter choice for blood sugar. I want to give you a clear, honest answer. The glycemic index of powdered peanut butter is similar to the natural version, somewhere in the 14 to 20 range. So from a pure glycemic index perspective, the difference is not dramatic. But here is the issue. The glycemic index is not what makes peanut butter clinically effective for blood sugar management. Let me bring everything together because when you see it as a whole, it is simpler than it may have seemed across 30 minutes. Natural peanut butter, 2 ingredients only, has a glycemic index of 14. It triggers 3 separate hormones at breakfast that lower blood sugar and reduce appetite for hours. It delivers magnesium that directly supports insulin sensitivity. It produces a measurable second meal effect that influences your blood sugar response at lunch when consumed.